The evolution of programming and gaming culture saw the rise of the cyberpunk movement in the late 1980s. If BASIC and games provided the tools and metaphors, the cyberpunks provided the ideological framework that pushed these ideas towards something like Bitcoin. Understanding the cyberpunk ethos is essential to grasp how all these elements, programming, games, and economics, became intertwined in the creation of cryptocurrency. The cypherpunks were an informal collective of cryptographers, programmers, and activists who believed that privacy and freedom could be significantly enhanced through cryptography. One of their core principles was programmable privacy. Using cryptographic pseudonyms, zero-knowledge proofs, and other techniques, individuals could transact and communicate without centralized oversight. For example, David Chaum's DigiCash attempted, in the late 1980s, to create electronic money that preserved privacy through cryptographic obfuscation. Although DigiCash failed as a company, its ideas deeply influenced the cypherpunks. The internet itself demonstrated that decentralization brings resilience and empowerment. The cypherpunks applied this to money. They wanted currency that no central bank or company could control, thus eliminating the risk of censorship, transaction blocking, or inflationary abuse. This was a radical extension of earlier ideas such as network sovereignty, cherished by early internet pioneers. The lesson was clear. The cypherpunks saw cryptographic code as a means of embedding certain rights, privacy, free trade, into the very architecture of cyberspace. This directly influenced the design of Bitcoin. The system's immutability and permissionless access are guaranteed purely by code, allowing anyone to send money to anyone else without any authority being able to freeze funds or reverse transactions. Tracing the arc from BASIC to Bitcoin, we see a multi-layered evolution, 1960s to 70s. Everyday people gained the ability to program, fostering a mindset of, if you don't like the system, you can build your own with code. BASIC instilled logical thinking and introduced resource management simulations. 1980s. Video games turned those logical constructs into living worlds. Sierra Online and others introduced fictional currencies, like Buckazoids, and economy-like mechanics. Players learned to navigate digital value systems, experiencing scarcity, trade, and consequences in virtual environments. These games unknowingly trained a generation in key concepts vital to understanding digital money. People like Hal Finney, Rod Nakamoto, and Satoshi Wasaka stood at that crossroads. Whether or not they directly influenced the Bitcoin pseudonym, each embodied something that Satoshi Nakamoto came to represent. The 1990s, the cypherpunks. They embraced the hacker ethos and gave it clear political direction. Protect privacy, decentralize power, and do it with code, not just words. 2000s. The double spending problem. All that remained was to solve the double spending issue in a decentralized way. A challenge pursued for decades, akin to a game development puzzle or a massive cryptographic riddle. 2008/2009, the creation of Bitcoin. Satoshi Nakamoto solved the puzzle with an innovative combination: a blockchain, a proof-of-work chain of records, plus a distributed network, plus economic incentives. Bitcoin synthesized decades of incremental progress. The first adopters were indeed cypherpunks, programmers, and hackers. 2010s and beyond. Cultural impact. Bitcoin triggered a Cambrian explosion of innovation, from Ethereum to NFTs, and drew in not just technologists, but also people from finance, politics, and the arts. Crypto enthusiasts, developers, tech historians, gaming culture analysts, and digital sovereignty advocates. They see Bitcoin not as an isolated novelty, but as part of a grand narrative of human trust in technology. Crypto advocates talk about financial autonomy, the way old microcomputer fans talked about autonomy over software. Bitcoin did not appear ex nihilo in 2009. It grew from seeds planted in time-sharing labs in the 60s, watered in bedroom coding sessions in the 80s, and fertilized in the cypherpunk crypto wars of the 90s. By understanding this rich context, we appreciate Bitcoin not just as an invention, but as a culmination, the fruit of a tree with roots stretching deep into the history of computing and branching out through economics and culture. And as new innovations sprout, perhaps inspired by Bitcoin in turn, this history reminds us that technology is a continuum. The games we play and the code we tinker with today may, in decades, become the foundation of entirely new paradigms of autonomy and value. The next Satoshi Nakamoto might even now be leveling up in a game or writing their first lines of code in a simple language, absorbing the lessons that will one day change the world. Did you know a Bitcoin-like symbol appeared in a video game back in the 90s? Long before Bitcoin was even created. In Space Quest 4, a classic by Sierra Online released years before Bitcoin existed, a digital currency was already circulating within the game's universe. The most fascinating detail? It used a symbol identical to B, the very one that now represents Bitcoin. All of this happened before Satoshi Nakamoto even released the white paper that would go on to revolutionize digital finance. That alone would already be a curious detail. But the coincidences don't stop there. While diving into The Mysterious Mr. Nakamoto by Benjamin Wallace, a book that dissects the secrets behind the origin of Bitcoin, I stumbled upon something unexpected: the Buckazoids. From that moment on, what began as mere curiosity turned into an investigation. And with every new discovery, the feeling grew stronger. A game studio that, back in the 90s, created a title featuring what might be the first digital currency in gaming, using a symbol identical to Bitcoin's. Coincidence? Maybe. But some coincidences are hard to ignore. The Buckazoids community on X has been gathering clues to this mystery. And what they're uncovering just keeps getting weirder. Crypto legends like Hal Finney and Nick Szabo, both rumored to be possible identities behind Satoshi Nakamoto, make an appearance in an episode of Young Sheldon that, intriguingly, draws a connection between Space Quest and Bitcoin. But why? No one really knows. What we do know is the connection exists. Back in 1991, Hal Finney was already involved in the world of space-themed games, while simultaneously working on cryptographic foundations that would later give birth to Bitcoin. In fact, he was the first person to ever receive BTC directly from Satoshi. And the story gets even stranger. Elon Musk somehow fits into this too. In 1984, he created a game called Blastar. Then in the 90s, he worked at Rocket Science Games, a company that had a partnership with Sega. Around that same time, Sega Interactive was being led by a man named, you guessed it, Rod Nakamoto. Coincidence? Or did Musk come into contact with crypto ideas before they even had a name? One of the Buckazoid coins has the number 59 stamped on it. Not just a random number, 59 is both prime and secure, traits highly valued in cryptography, especially in algorithms like RSA. There may not be a direct link to Bitcoin's code, which uses SHA instead of RSA, but the symbolism is there, a subtle wink to the crypto world before it even existed. The mystery of the Buckazoids isn't about making baseless theories. It's about genuine curiosity. It's about connecting dots that feel far too specific to be coincidence. And above all, it's about inviting other curious minds to investigate together. After all, if we're being honest, this entire universe, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, decentralization, was born from communities bold enough to ask questions no one else was asking. That's what makes Buckazoids so unique. It's not just an inside joke, not just gamer nostalgia. It's almost a collective digital archaeology project, a treasure hunt led by a community committed to uncovering the origins of the crypto world. Was something hidden right under our noses? Could game developers, audio engineers, and programmers in California have planted, back in the 90s, the seed of the greatest financial revolution of the modern era? The truth is, no one knows for sure. And that's exactly why it's worth exploring. The Buckazoids community on X is more active than ever, full of ideas, clues, connections, and unexpected questions. People revisiting Space Quest, digging through old credits, starting wild conversations. Because sometimes following the strangest threads might seem crazy, but it might also be what leads us to Satoshi. Ever wondered about digital money? Today, let's demystify Bitcoin and Buckazoid. Both are digital, but their stories couldn't be more different. First, Bitcoin, the original and most widely adopted cryptocurrency in the world. Created by Satoshi Nakamoto, it's digital money that can be sent directly between people. No banks needed. It's decentralized, meaning no single entity controls it. The network itself does. Think of it as real money, built on a secure public technology called blockchain. Bitcoin is global, transparent, and hasn't been hacked in over a decade. It's used for payments, as an investment, and even as digital gold. Now meet the Buckazoid, a digital currency with a twist. Its story began in 1989 in the sci-fi video game Space Quest 3, where it was used as the intergalactic currency. Strangely enough, its symbol in the game was identical to Bitcoin's B, long before Bitcoin even existed. So the big difference? Bitcoin is a pioneering, decentralized financial system with real-world utility and a proven track record. Buckazoid, driven by nostalgia, is a digital collectible with a unique story. Long before Bitcoin, Elon Musk was already playing with code in space. In 1984, at just 12 years old, Elon created a game called Blastar. Even then, he was already talking about intergalactic traders and explosive cargo. In the 90s, Musk worked at Rocket Science Games, a company that partnered with Sega. Around the same time, Sega Interactive was led by a curious name, Rod Nakamoto. Meanwhile, groups like the cypherpunks were already discussing digital currencies. One of them was Hal Finney, the first person to ever receive Bitcoin. In 2008, the Bitcoin white paper was published, signed by Satoshi Nakamoto. Years later, Elon would deny being Bitcoin's creator. Too many coincidences? Or was Elon Musk closer to the origin of Bitcoin than we ever imagined? Founded in 1979 in Oakhurst, California, Sierra Online, later known as Sierra Entertainment, was more than just a game studio. It was a hub of visionary ideas. Under the leadership of Ken and Roberta Williams, the company captivated players with rich, story-driven adventures, bringing to life titles like King's Quest, Leisure Suit Larry, and Space Quest. Among these creations, Space Quest stood out for its blend of science fiction, satire, and innovation. Created by Scott Murphy and Mark Crow, the game introduced a curious digital currency called Buckazoid, used by characters to buy, sell, and trade, decades before the concept of cryptocurrency became mainstream. The most intriguing detail? Buckazoids featured a stylized B symbol, visually strikingly similar to today's Bitcoin logo. Coincidence? Perhaps. Or maybe an unexpected glimpse into the future of money. Within Sierra's team were figures like Rod Nakamoto and Satoshi Wasaka, who played key roles in the studio's most creative years. Interestingly, these names would later be associated with technological and philosophical discussions that echo the foundational principles of the crypto era. Throughout the 1990s, Sierra Online's influence continued to grow. Creative studios like Interactive Designs, founded by Rod and Nancy Nakamoto, were eventually acquired by Sega, becoming part of Sega Interactive, a strategic move by the Japanese giant to expand into Western markets at the time. However, Sierra's journey eventually came to an end. In the early 2000s, the company shut its doors. Its headquarters was briefly renamed Yosemite Entertainment, before its core development team was absorbed by Codemasters, a British studio known for its racing and simulation games. In a curious twist of digital fate, Codemasters was acquired in 2021 by Electronic Arts, EA, one of the most powerful forces in the modern gaming industry. In doing so, EA became part of a legacy that traces directly back to Sierra's pioneering days. Meanwhile, Take-Two Interactive, the publisher behind Grand Theft Auto, developed strategic partnerships with companies like EA and Zynga, extending the reach of video games as true economic powerhouses. These connections help solidify digital games as billion-dollar industries, increasingly blurring the lines between virtual and real-world value. Rockstar Games, a subsidiary of Take-Two, pushed this fusion even further. With GTA V, it expanded the limits of what digital worlds can represent, with internal economies, social satire, and even references to cryptocurrency. All of this points to a rare but essential continuity, an invisible thread connecting past and present, from Space Quest to modern titles like Grand Theft Auto, from Buckazoids to Bitcoin. To truly understand the connection between video games and cryptocurrencies, we have to mention Hal Finney, a legendary figure, a computer scientist, cryptographer, sound engineer, and one of the original cypherpunks. Finney was the first person to ever receive a Bitcoin transaction, sent by none other than Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009. But Finney was more than just a code pioneer. He was also involved in the early development of science fiction and space-themed video games. His fascination with digital worlds went hand in hand with his beliefs in decentralization, freedom, and digital sovereignty. For him, both games and cryptography were tools of independence and creative expression. Hal passed away in 2014, but his body was cryogenically preserved by the Alcor Life Extension Foundation in Arizona, in hopes of one day being revived by future medical technology. A fitting resting place for someone who was always ahead of his time. At first glance, it might seem like a stretch to say that a digital token in Space Quest, a 1991 game by Sierra, foreshadowed Bitcoin's financial revolution. But the deeper you dig, the clearer it becomes. Buckazoids were one of the first true representations of digital currency in a virtual universe. Creators like Rod Nakamoto, Satoshi Wasaka, and Hal Finney helped build a bridge between interactive storytelling and the decentralized protocols we see today. Studios like Sierra Online, Codemasters, EA, Take-Two, and Rockstar form an evolutionary chain. One that eventually intersects with blockchain, crypto assets, the metaverse, and immersive virtual worlds. The cypherpunk and sci-fi aesthetic of early adventure games was already hinting at the spirit of the blockchain era. In the end, the past is prologue. It all started with imagination, experimentation, and passion. It all started with Sierra. It all started with Buckazoids.